What is going on, my friends? Week 5 of the college football season. Auburn coming off an overtime win against Missouri. So now it's time to get ready for LSU. Cole Cubelic going to help me recap and preview on another episode of Head to Head. Lots to unpack here. Nathaniel Pete fumbled the football in the end zone while attempting to score. It was kind of one of those like jaw-dropping moments. You are excited for Auburn, you're sad for Missouri, you're kind of all over the place. You feel bad for this running back. And obviously Missouri had the chance to put it away with the game-winning field goal at the end of regulation. That didn't happen. So lots to unpack, as I said. Cole, just throw it all out there for me. Just give us what you got.
Well, I think the first thing that needs to be remembered and discussed is that Auburn won the football game. At the end of the day, you play to win the game, as Herm Edwards would say. So you're still 3-1 on the season, and that's a positive, regardless of how it took place, what happened. But there were a lot of questionable moments, questionable calls late in that game. You mentioned Eli Drinkwitz deciding to take a couple of knees, fall down a few times before he essentially attempted an extra point to win the game. Brian Harsin had a 4th and 1 where he decided not to allow Carlson to go out and attempt a field goal. And, they handed off to Tank Bigsby. He doesn't come up with a first down, which gave Missouri kind of some new life. And then obviously the fumble in the last play of overtime. Just weird sequence of events with how that thing played out. And both teams looked like they were going to move the ball early. And then all of a sudden, second quarter, third quarter, nobody could even seem to find a first down. What was it, 11 consecutive punts, I believe, in this game. So there's part of it that I feel like set football back about a decade when we were watching this game and just how it played out and what it really was. Obviously, the quarterback play on both sides of the ball was subpar for both teams, and that's not going to allow you to do a lot offensively. And the inability to run the football for Auburn was honestly gross. I don't know another way to describe it. And I think that Auburn defensive front continues to kind of let us down, Lauren. That was an area that we all thought we'd be able to hang our hats on. Tailback defensive front we thought would be strengths of this football team, and it hasn't been that thus far.
Again, Auburn has a chance to come in here and make a point and prove something at home at Jordan-Hare Stadium against this LSU football team. I think one of the key storylines here, injuries. That's a big storyline for both football teams, but especially for Auburn at the quarterback position. TJ Finley dealing with the shoulder injury. Robbie Ashford now getting the starting nod this week according to the depth chart. Holden Gariner is the backup. So you really only got 2 scholarship quarterbacks right now that are technically healthy. And one of the biggest key areas that the coaching staff talk about, Robbie Ashford has a lot of upside. They like this kid, but sometimes he can't handle the pressure. He hasn't been in those experienced situations, and he lets a lot of things kind of dwell on him. So it's going to be so critical, especially against this LSU team, when he takes hit, when he gets pressure, that he's able to kind of get out of those pressure situations and put mistakes behind him. I think that's going to be key in managing his emotions. And then the burning question here is how you get the run game going, because it's going to be critical, I think, to get the run game going, to get Tank Bigsby the ball to kind of eliminate some of this pressure that you're going to be putting on your starting quarterback this week.
Man, it doesn't just happen. You don't just go in and say, okay, offensive line, you got to play better and we'll be able to run the football. It's like I said before, you're going to have to add some creativity somehow, some way. It's a talented defensive line that they're going to be going up against. You mentioned the quarterback position. There's some guys in that room that really have some big decisions that they personally need to make on what they want to do and what they want to be for the rest of this football season and maybe for the rest of their football careers. Because there are a lot of other things that are being discussed and talked about as opposed to just helping their teams win football games. That's got to go away if Auburn's going to find a way to right this ship and go out and win games. This is a situation now where I think if you know Robbie is your guy, begin to design more things to allow him to utilize those legs, not just leaving the pocket, not 1 or 2 zone reads a half. Give him more options to keep the football and break a defense down, be a kid that can take over a game, and most of that's going to have to be with his legs. I think there are a lot of things that Auburn can do and present and show to force the defenses to play and respect a little bit differently that have to begin to happen. You're not going to be able to continue to go out and utilize the same formations, personnel groupings, and run the same plays and just think that it's going to work. The level of execution can improve a little bit, but it's not going to be to the point that you're just going to go out and beat people because you're better than them on that side of the football. That won't happen. Not with this group. They're not talented enough. They're not good enough across the board. That's the reality. But there are ways to mask some of those things and potentially give yourself different advantages.
Yeah, when you look at this LSU football team, again, they lose that first one. They're on a 3-game winning streak, hopefully making that. They want to make that 4 coming into Jordan-Hare Stadium. But they've got a lot to figure out. They've figured some stuff out, but they've still got more to figure out. Of course, Jaden Daniels at quarterback. He's a quarterback that can make throws. He can get you on his feet. Auburn's defense will have its hands full. And last week they had 633 total yards against New Mexico, okay? But they got a lot of guys some different looks. And, Coach Kelly said, it's not – it's not all just going to come together at one time. You got to find different ways to win games. You got to find different ways to draw up different schemes, obviously on offense and defense. And, I think they're trying some things out. The offense seemed to get into a bit of a rhythm this past week for LSU. So, is this LSU team hitting its stride, and how does that play, against Auburn as they come into Jordan-Hare Stadium on Saturday night? That's my big question.
I think they're on their way to. I don't know if they're hitting it just now. I don't look at LSU as a team that has drastically improved. I think they're just a team that's sort of ascending. Like, it's going to be a slow, gradual climb. They're figuring things out more so than they're just improving, because it's a team that had talent coming into the season. Well, now you've had your offensive line utilize the same starting 5 for consecutive games for the first time this season. This will be the 3rd game if it's the same 5 against Auburn. You got who the coaching staff believe is their best tailback back in John Emery. So now you have options at tailback. You have a talented group of receivers. You're starting 2 freshman tackles, and you're playing a freshman tight end the majority of the time. That's a lot of youth on that side of the football. It's going to take time for them to grow and understand and have an idea of what the speed and physicality of the game is going to be all about. But they are figuring it out, and they've had opportunities to be in games together. So I look at LSU as more of a team that is gradually climbing than just, they've gotten magically better. And I think they're going to continue to improve. One of the reasons, the quarterback's a perfect example of that. They didn't realize they were going to have to be a tempo team until they got into that Florida State game. And I think Jaden Daniels was 9 of 9 on plays where the play clock was higher than 18 seconds when they snapped the ball. So going faster is going to benefit him. I think they've welcomed the fact that he's going to utilize his legs. They're giving him less reads, maybe more one and done, more quarterback design runs, because they realize that's where he can be most effective. So it's really just a feeling out process for this LSU team, and one that I think is going to continue to grow as the season progresses.
All right. All great points. We get into our predictions. I think Auburn, it seems like they're in a bit of distress. There's just a lot of circulating, a lot of noise, all these things. You're seeing Harsin on the hot seat, all this other stuff, headlines. You got to close it in. You got to get in that locker room. You got to make things right in the locker room. Eliminate the outside noise. A win is a win, as you said at the top of the show. Again, rivalry game. I think Auburn really has to find a way to run the football, eliminate pressure from the quarterback, especially this week if Robbie Ashford ends up being the guy, as they've got him listed on the depth chart. O-line, find a way to protect your quarterback. Give him some time to make decisions. Make it a little bit easier on him. I think LSU, this is, I guess, a one-score spread right now, and I think LSU will come out with the win. I'm going to say 27-20.
I don't think there's a way that I could realistically pick Auburn when you look at the matchups in this game. I think LSU's defensive line is going to have a lot of success. I don't think they're going to have a problem matching up with Auburn's receivers. I think offensively, with how some of the Auburn front has been out of position, being displaced from gaps or just essentially not fitting the run correctly, they're going to have their way both handing the ball off and obviously with quarterback runs. So I'm going to have to go LSU in this game. I think it's going to be 24-10, LSU with a comfortable win at Jordan-Hare Stadium.
All right, and Locke, what you got, buddy?
Can you say War Eagle Hey?
All right. Hey, we got some confidence in the Auburn Tigers. I think it's going to be a good matchup. I'm excited to see it. We'll see how things shake out. Cole, we appreciate you as always, and all. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Head to Head.